everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. This one has been requested a couple of times, and to be fair, she's been kinda sitting in my port for a long time, theoretically. The Roon, the German Tier 9 heavy cruiser. Now, a bit of history on this one. I have played the Admiral Hipper quite a bit. She was my first Tier 8, and I've had enough XP to unlock the Roon for ages. I've just never done it, because the Roon just didn't seem like a great ship to me. She didn't have the right amount of torpedoes, the guns were weirdly mounted, and just in general, she didn't really excite me in any way to spend the amount of silver to go up in Tier 9 and play this thing. But I did it because you've been asking me. So here is the Roon. Historically, she did not exist. Not even in concept. According to the Wargaming Wiki, which is the only place where I found any kind of indication as to how they came to this thing, there was an attempt to create triple turrets out of the Admiral Hipper's 203mm main guns. And this is what we're seeing here. Roon has triple turrets, in opposition to the Hipper's twin turrets. But historically, I haven't found any indication. Now, there was a Roon, but that's a World War I ship, as far as I remember. Same with York. So they have recycled some naming, at least, from historic German ship naming. And other than that, it's a hypothetical ship. So is the Hindenburg, to be fair, but okay. So let's have a look at this thing, given that we have no history on her. The Hipper was an excellent cruiser at Tier 8. I really, really liked her. Hard-hitting, armor-piercing, maneuverable, lots of torpedoes, brawly, sturdy, this kind of thing. The Roon looks, well, still for a cruiser, relatively well armored. But still, it's only a cruiser. You have 37,000 hit points. And she is, well, average in speed. And she does unfortunately need the full maneuverability setup, because otherwise she just wouldn't turn very much. The guns are 3 triple turrets, so you have one more gun than the Admiral Hipper. Otherwise, they're exactly the same guns, I think. We'll compare them in a second. The torpedoes, you get 2 quad launchers compared to the 4 triple launchers that you had on the Hipper, which is a significant reduction in torpedo firepower, especially that they're side-mounted and you have to turn the ship around to fire the other one. Other than that, they're just the standard slow German 5.4 kilometer range, close range defense torpedoes. Her AA is a bit more respectable, but still you're not an AA cruiser in any way whatsoever. And if you come under concentrated air attack, you're gonna feel that. And her surface detection, again, isn't great. So how does she compare to the Hipper? Actually, let's set that up. Give me a second. Okay, here we go. So, Hipper, a little bit less hit points. Otherwise, and the Roon has better torp protection and better citadel protection. So, slightly sturdier than the Hipper. But then again, you're playing Tier 9, so you're getting into Tier 10 games, which means you get shot at by things like the Yamato and the Monty, which is not a problem the Hipper usually has. Otherwise, in terms of maneuverability, the Roon is a bit slower to get up to speed and is a bit more sluggish in the turn. The guns are again 203mm L60s on the Roon, and they're the exact same guns on the Hipper. The Roon just gets a little bit better range, but reload speed, damage, everything else is exactly the same. The torpedoes, we've got the 530mm standard torps, and they have a bit of a slower reload time on the Roon, because, well, if you have fewer torpedoes, why would you make them faster to reload? So in general, I would say the Hipper has the better torpedo layout. But other than that, same torps. And the AA is exactly the same? No, she gets an uptick in the small caliber AA, but that's round about it. Surface detection is worse in the Roon. Now, let's get to the big question here, the gun layout. We've had ships before that had this gun layout, the Tier 5 and Tier 6 German light cruisers, the Nürnberg and the Königsberg. So you've got 2 turrets on the rear, and you do not have the greatest gun angles to point them out forwards. Which means that this is, while it's a German ship, and in theory it's brawly, it's also a kiter by its layout. Now on the Nürnberg or on the Königsberg, that was not so much an issue. These were light cruisers. They were quick, very maneuverable. This isn't. This is a bit more of a sluggish beast, even less maneuverable than the Hipper. So the gun layout says long range kiter, and so does the torpedo loadout, because it's really more of an afterthought at this point, and it's a self-defense or kind of situational thing. But it isn't the relatively devastating rush that you can do, for example, in the Hipper, where you rush a battleship, you tank some shots, and you drop 12 torpedoes onto them, while also hammering away with your main guns. Because she doesn't have the forward firepower and she doesn't have the torpedo power. She does have a bit of a range advantage. So the elite bonus, I have gone with the improved main belt here to get the better damage reduction and the better citadel protection. I can't quite remember what I did on the Hipper, so let me quickly check. Yeah, same setup like on the Hipper. The other option would have been turret traverse, which is kind of nice, but not necessary on a ship which is set up for range. So that's that. The modules. I have gotten the main battery mod 2 because I do not lose German gun turrets very often. The reload isn't super quick to begin with on these 203 mils. The precision mod would have been kind of nice, but I did want more firepower, more gun firepower on, because you can't really do that much with the torps. I would really have loved to get the acceleration in slot 2, but unfortunately she is sluggish to the point where I actually really need the steering gear mod in order to, for situations where you do have to brawl things. And you're going to have to deal with destroyers. You're in a cruiser. So while you have hydro, you also need to dodge torps. So that's the exact same setup as it is on the Hipper. I've put a commander in here. I think that was my Hipper commander. I've just bumped him up. So he does get the marksman skill for extended precise aiming. And that is also one difference. If we look here, she gets the precise aiming 2 and the sonar 2. So these are precise aiming 2. If we look at it, that's a 30% accuracy increase. So she is accurate and she has range. The gun layout makes her not an aggressive ship at all, because you are much better kiting away from things than you are actually rushing towards things, which is weird in a German ship because you're also extremely sturdy. But, well, it is what it is. So, the universally disliked Tier 9 German cruiser, the Roon. I don't know what it is with Tier 9 ships, really. It's like, you really want to get to that Tier 10 ship? Well, you're going to have to go through this one. So, let's see what we can kind of pull off in this thing. So, one question that has been asked was, what do you do when you're in a Roon and you're up against a battleship? Especially if you're bottom tier. As luck will have it, we're in a game here and we're bottom tier. We've got a Haku, a Monty, an Iowa, enemy Worcester, and an enemy Shima. And we're playing encounter. There are 2 bots on each team, so we'll just ignore those, but let's go. Who do we have on our side? Yama, Haku, Worcester, myself, and a Shima of our own. Yeah, the Shima is our primary target, and the Worcester if we can see her. There's one cruiser in the cap on our side, so we're probably gonna go down the right flank and see what we can see. There's Worcester with me, and either they defend this flank, so Shima will usually either go completely around the other side, or and that's where the carrier is going to spot, or Shima will come around this flank and, yeah, thanks to the carrier, starting to send out fighters to go and spot something. So we get an early spot on where the Shima is. But of course that means his fighters get baited over into the battleship over there, and the other carrier is sending out a fair amount of things. We're not spotting anything quite yet. So we've got 4 ships back on the other flank. So us 2 cruisers are just going to go down here and see how the disposition. So far we've spotted most of the enemy ships over there on the other side. So it looks like we can do a flanking run here. Okay, we're spotted. And it's not planes, because the planes are too far away. The Shima is here, probably around there-ish. So I'm slowing down, changing my speed, and turning in just in case. Oh, there she is, exactly. Just as predicted. So hydro up, and we start opening up at the Shima. Now I'm firing armor piercing here, but that's a tier 10 destroyer. So they are quite a bit sturdier, and they can activate these basically tier 8 guns that we have here. And as you can see, she is rather accurate, and she does a world of hurt against the Shima. Okay, so I've got the hydro up, so the torps have been spotted 8 miles away. And I think that's just the bot destroyer on our side, so I'm going to have to see if I can dodge these. I'm probably going to take 1. Let's see. But at least Worcester doesn't have to worry, because torpedoes have been spotted. Okay, yeah, that one we can get away from. Okay, let's go back again. Other flank seems to be holding. Carrier and battleship are defending on that side. So let's see if we can. Well, we should between the 2 of us, Worcester and me, we should be able to push the Shima away. Okay, there's Monty. We get crossfire options on the Monty. Now I'm trying to aim at the rear, but I think she's actually reversing. Yeah, she's reversing. So they're mostly hitting amidships. So we're going to aim a bit further back and see if I can get her hit in the rear, and see that I can get the island in between. What's the home situation? Battleship and carrier versus cruiser and battleship. That should be doable. And we can start taking the Haku under fire, which means that he's probably focusing less on air support and focusing more on dodging. And I think the Shima just took a torp from the bot. Or maybe an airdrop torp. It could have been an airdrop torp as well from our carrier. So he was flooding. I think he damage conded, but he's on super low health. So he's probably dead. There was just some perspective shots in that way. Okay, bot Yugomo actually takes him out. Alright, the carrier is hunting the bot Yugomo. Yeah, you do that. Which means we can keep chasing him out. Now, our Worcester has the carrier under fire, which means I'm going to take on the Monty, because I'm more suited towards that task. Even though I'm just a tier 9, but I'm a German cruiser. Now, I just said that these things aren't particularly great in brawling, so... we'll see how that turns out. I know where to hit the Montana. I'm going to get the torps out, and I'm going to try to hit her into the stern. There we go, and that's 840 per hit from these guns, which means I can do a really decent amount of damage. I'm just going to chase him around the island here, and see if I can get some torp drops onto him, because I think the carrier has gone undetected, and this is what I can do to the stern or to the bow section of a Montana. Now he's got to get his guns turned around. His secondary set me on fire. I can barely get the torps around at this angle, but I'll give it a shot. And yes, I cannot brawl a Montana for too long, but I can shoot his rudder off and give him the Bismarck treatment. And that's some torp hits at least. How many we get? Three torps on target. And I just keep harping the armor-piercing shots at point blank into his relatively weakly armored rear section. And he does a lot of damage to me, but I can also tank quite a bit, and I have a decent citadel protection. So I can't do that more than once, I guess. But once I can do it. And it looks like at this point, we're 2 ships on 1, it's just the Haku left, and we're capping. So that was a quick one. But yeah. This is kind of what you can do with the Roon. Now, I could have done this with the Hipper probably as well, and probably better. But the accuracy of the guns is actually pretty good. Now, you don't have the forward angles, but you are still a very, very dangerous ship, especially if somebody lets you get close. And she can play at range, and she can play at close distances, if you know where to hit enemy ships. I wouldn't even bother with the high explosive unless I was probably kiting a battleship at long range, and even then, the German high explosive is really poor, so it's not usually something I would worry about too much. But the capabilities with the sonar And with the precision mod and just generally the damage output that she has, she is a tier 9 hipper. And she's not as aggressive as a hipper. But if she needs to be, she can dish out a really fair amount of damage. Now it's just the Hako left over here, so we're just going to get some shots in. And you see, look at the shots groupings. They are extremely on point. That's just my terrible aim that I've missed him because he was in a turn. But they can be extremely on point, especially if you have the precise aiming on. And that's game. That was quick. But yes, you're still a cruiser, but you're also a very sturdy cruiser. Use the armor piercing. Try to stay at range unless you have an opportunity, and when you do have an opportunity, you can go in and brawl and do some fierce amount of damage to enemy ships if you have to. So, is she as terrible as people think she is? I don't think so. I think she's playing just very differently from the hipper. You have to play her more at range. You occasionally have to kite away from ships. But she has a good endurance for a cruiser. She can take a savage amount of damage. And the guns are relatively precise. So play her less as a torpedo cruiser and more as a long-range gunboat. Stick with the armor piercing, especially against light cruisers. Light cruisers, she can be quite devastating even at range. And I guess just get through it. But yeah, she is definitely more of a ranged ship than, say, the hipper was. But she's fun. I wouldn't say pleasantly surprised, but I'm not as disappointed as I thought I would be. Let me put it this way. So I'm going to grind this one up to the Hindenburg. But I am very much not going to keep this one around because, I don't know, after all, at the end of the day, she's really just a tier 9 hipper with fewer torpedoes. So I hope that helped a little bit and answered some of the questions you people had. That's it from me today. I'll see you all next time. Bye.